I suddenly realized just how unfortunate my sister really was. An idea sparked in my mind, and all I had to do was wait and watch closely. Caroline, wearing an extravagant wedding gown, one fit for a princess, lightly gestured toward the event staff for a microphone. When she received it, she turned to the gathered guests and confidently announced, "Would anyone like to take my sister off her hands? She's not highly educated, and she's getting older, isn't she?" After saying this, she shot me a smug, mean-spirited smile, completely unaware of how inappropriate her words were. The atmosphere in the room shifted dramatically. I could hear murmurs spreading, and some guests started giving Clara cold glares. But she, blissfully ignorant, tightened her grip on the microphone and continued, "Come on, sister, you need to sell yourself better. There are plenty of handsome doctors here. You really don't get what you've just done, do you?" Just then, an unexpected incident occurred. My name is Anna Parker. I'm a plain 30-year-old working adult with no particularly outstanding features, except for one unusual fact. After finishing middle school, I chose to pursue a career in law and eventually earned my attorney's license. I have a sister named Clara, who is 2 years younger than me. She's charming and sociable, so our family has always treated her like a favorite. In contrast, I'm just average-looking and blend into the background. I never felt special or cherished by my family or relatives. I often received cold treatment at home, unable to compete with Clara's natural charm, which captured all of our parents' attention and love. Meanwhile, I was met with harsh looks and indifference. I worked diligently in my studies, striving to earn good grades in hopes of attracting even a bit of attention from my family. But no matter how hard I tried, I could never outshine her. Eventually, I grew tired of competing for my family's love. I decided to take a different path, one where I would give up on seeking their affection. Instead, I poured my energy into my studies, promising myself that I would find my own worth. As I deepened my knowledge, I found confidence in my abilities, and my efforts paid off with visible results. I held on to the hope that my academic success would someday earn me praise from my parents. I continued to sit at my desk late into the night, studying and working hard throughout middle school. I consistently held the top spot in my class, outperforming my peers in every test. Despite my accomplishments, I never once heard words of praise from my parents. Instead, I often faced what felt like criticism for my grades. "It's not enough just to be at the top. You need to get nearly perfect scores in every subject." Yes, even a 95% in science isn't good enough. They'd say things like, "This recent exam was really hard," only to follow up with, "Excuses, excuses. Your lack of effort is why your results are disappointing." My mother's voice was sharp like ice, cutting through my confidence. "Are you really planning to show off those less-than-perfect grades?" All I could do was murmur an apology. "Yes, I'm sorry." No matter how much time and effort I invested, my results never met my parents' expectations of perfection. They never acknowledged my hard work. Any score below 100% was just a reason for reprimand. But more hurtful than my parents' coldness were Clara's seemingly innocent words. "Oh, sister, you're not getting lectured again, are you?" She'd enter my space without knocking and smirk at my report card. "Good grades and still scolded? That's sad. I get praised for barely passing." "Did you come here just to say that?" I asked, feeling the sting of her words. I was worried maybe you were down again, but I didn't expect such a cold reception. Clara feigned concern as she spoke. "If you were really worried about me, you wouldn't say things like that," I retorted quietly. "That's your problem. You're always so distant. That's why Mom and Dad don't show you any love," she said. Her gaze was as cold as ice, filled with unmistakable contempt as she looked down at me. For a brief moment, I could feel that attitude radiating from her even as she walked away. After she left, I could hear her cheerful laughter mingling with our parents' voices in the living room. I should have been used to this by now. But suddenly a wave of sadness washed over me, and I couldn't hold back the tears streaming down my cheeks. I had told myself countless times that I didn't need my parents' expectations, that I wouldn't let Clara's words affect me. Yet, despite my resolve, my emotions betrayed me and tears fell freely. In my hand, I clutched my report card, now crumpled and unrecognizable from being tightly clenched. I made a vow to myself once again. I would stand on my own and break free from this suffocating family. I was determined to excel in my studies and improve my skills as a way to escape. From that moment on, I threw myself into my studies with even more enthusiasm than before. One day, as the autumn breeze swept through the classroom windows, I received an unexpected announcement from my father. "Anna, you will not continue to high school. Instead, you need to start looking for a job," he said flatly. I was at a loss for words, my confusion overwhelming me. "Why would you say something like that?" I asked, trying to keep my face expressionless. My father responded coldly, "Further investment in you isn't necessary. If you want to go to high school, pay for it with your own earnings. If that's not possible, then you must give up. But I'm still in middle school. Work opportunities are limited for me. How am I supposed to find a job?" My protests fell on deaf ears. "You need to accept this decision. After discussing it with your mother, we've decided to focus our finances on Clara. We can't afford to spend any more on you," he declared firmly. Internally, I screamed, "That's not fair." But my father's decision was unyielding, and his abrupt words drained all the color from my world, painting everything in shades of gray. My mother and Clara watched me with smug smiles that revealed their hidden glee as I stood frozen in shock. I understand much more now than I did back then. For example, I later learned there were options to cover high school expenses, like schools that offered tuition waivers or scholarships. But back then, I didn't know how to access that information, and I was devastated at losing my chance for further education. Since that day, my passion for learning faded rapidly. The praises from my homeroom teacher, who had always admired my grades, felt hollow. The lack of attention regarding education at home made the idea of advancing to higher education seem even more hopeless. Eventually, I stepped into the next phase of my life by working at a local factory right after graduation. At that time, I wasn't yet old enough to live on my own and support myself, so until I turned 18, I worked as hard as I could. Most of my salary went to the household, and the small amount I kept for myself was saved for the future. Those tough days felt like crawling through an endless tunnel. On my 18th birthday, I finally left that house, leaving behind a letter for my family with my decision firmly in my heart. I walked away from a home that now existed only in my memories. Ironically, my family's reaction was as if I had never existed. There was complete silence, no phone calls, no letters. At first, living apart from my family filled me with heartbreak, and loneliness cast a shadow over my days. However, as time passed, that loneliness gradually eased with the business of work. After moving out and starting an independent life, the stress I had felt at home began to fade away. I started to experience a mental spaciousness I had never known before. This newfound peace reignited a spark of enthusiasm within me. I regained my former passion for learning and decided to start studying again after a long hiatus. I began with the basics, reviewing them carefully. The joy of learning filled my heart once more, and before I knew it, I was immersed in my studies. After that, I started to explore high school textbooks and began reading extensively. During this reading journey, I discovered books about law, which sparked a deep interest in the legal profession. With my education ending in junior high, the idea of becoming a lawyer felt far-fetched. However, I unexpectedly learned about the preliminary examination system. This system offered a chance for someone with my educational background to take the bar exam. Armed with this new knowledge, my dedication to studying grew stronger. I seized every moment at home and even during short breaks at work to memorize legal terms. During lunch, I would eat while ensuring that my preparation for the bar exam never faltered. The factory where I worked was filled with people from the generation above me, most around my parents' age. They noticed my earnest efforts and united to support me. Then, at 23, I managed to pass the exam. After passing, I left my long-term job at the factory and secured a position at a prestigious law firm. After about 4 years of training there, I ventured out to open my own law practice. Now, I spend my days contentedly serving as a legal consultant for a hospital. Yet sometimes, I ponder what would happen if I told my parents about my journey to becoming a lawyer. I wonder how they would react. Occasionally, I hold on to the hope that I might finally meet the expectations they might have had for me. Nevertheless, I haven't shared any of this with them, and deep down, I believe I will continue to keep my distance. However, an unexpected reunion with my family came sooner than I thought. One evening after finishing work, I came home to find a message on my smartphone from Clara, my younger sister. It said she was getting married. Clara is getting married, I whispered softly to myself. My sister, now 26, was engaged to a doctor, and her wedding was scheduled for next month. They wanted me to attend. Even after the long period of estrangement from Clara and my parents, I hesitated to meet them. But as a family member, I couldn't ignore this important event, so I sent a reply saying I would attend. Clara quickly responded with the details of the ceremony, including the exact date and location. The message ended with a note reminding me not to forget the wedding gift, which made me smile a little. It seemed that rather than welcoming me wholeheartedly, Clara was expecting a wedding gift. I decided to use the wedding as a chance to reconnect with the family and then part ways again. On the day of Clara's wedding, I carefully picked out a blue dress and headed to the venue for the ceremony. After completing the entrance formalities, I took my seat in the family section where my father and mother were already sitting. "You have some nerve showing up here. You must be doing well for yourself with that meager salary from the factory," my father said coldly. "Indeed, you're right. Introducing someone like her as family doesn't reflect well on us as parents," my mother added disdainfully. "Clara shouldn't have invited someone like you," my father continued. "I told them exactly that, but they insisted on receiving the celebration money anyway," my mother said quietly. Despite my presence, they spoke without hesitation, as if I weren't there. This was the harsh reality I faced. I had a faint hope that sharing my side of the story might help bridge the gap between my family and me, but that hope quickly shattered, leaving me feeling defeated. Both my father and mother completely avoided any conversation with me as I sat in silence. I glanced around the venue and noticed some familiar faces among the groom's side. Haven't I seen that person somewhere before? I wondered. I found myself musing as I felt a sense of déjà vu with the person sitting next to the groom. While I traced my uncertain memory, I looked up the groom's name, and my suspicion turned into conviction. The connection I had anticipated became clear. I couldn't hide my faint surprise at such a coincidence. It felt almost like a twist of fate. However, I decided to keep my emotions in check and quietly participate in the ceremony. As the program continued, the bride and groom made a glamorous entrance, followed by their guests, who shared warm words and entertaining performances that lightened the atmosphere. As time passed, the banquet shifted from dinner to photo-taking sessions. During this time, my parents got up without acknowledging my presence and moved toward the front, where the bride and groom were waiting. Clara, drawn like a magnet, stayed close to them, beaming with happiness as each photograph was taken. I tried to ignore the scene unfolding before me and focus silently on the meal in front of me. Unexpectedly, Clara quietly approached me. She came closer with a smile, but her eyes sparkled with something more than just excitement about seeing her sister after so many years. It felt like she had something else in mind. "Big sis, it's been such a long time, hasn't it? Are you happy to spend time together like this? She asked lightly. I nodded quietly, trying to express my true feelings. Yes, the banquet food is really wonderful, I replied with a sarcastic smile. Clara continued, You can't get such luxurious food at the factory where you work, can you? You should be grateful for this opportunity. Something inside me felt like it was being torn apart, but I didn't show it on my face. However, Clara's words turned sharper, cutting into me like a knife. Oh dear, did I upset you? I'm sorry, but it's natural for you to be envious, isn't it? Your little sister is marrying a doctor after all. The phrase I'm sorry slipped from Clara's mouth flippantly, as if it were just a meaningless ornament. I kept my expression neutral and quietly waited for my next move. At that moment, Clara leaned in and whispered in my ear, Big sis, because I feel sorry for you, I've come up with a great idea. I looked at her suspiciously. A great idea? What is it? With a satisfied grin, Clara said, You'll see. Just watch closely. Dressed in her elegant wedding gown, Clara gathered everyone's attention as she received a microphone from the staff. Suddenly, she announced loudly to the guests, Ladies and gentlemen, you may not know this, but my sister is here. She may not have the highest education or be the youngest, but if anyone is kind-hearted enough, could you please take her under your wing? My face turned bright red. What are you saying, Clara? I exclaimed. But she continued even louder. Although she doesn't earn much and lives a modest life, is there someone here who can brighten my sister's future? As the eyes of everyone around focused on me, I saw that Clara seemed to be enjoying my confusion, a smug smile on her face. In that moment, a breathtaking scene unfolded. Clara's disrespectful attitude escalated, and astonishingly, even our usually gentle parents joined in. Please treat her kindly, they chimed in, their frivolous comments feeling like a final blow to me. Rage swirled within me. How far would they go to ridicule me, especially on such a joyful occasion? I couldn't believe this was happening, but now it was time for me to confront the reality of the situation. As the atmosphere shifted and murmurs spread through the venue, Clara, blissfully unaware that she was the center of attention, cheerfully took the microphone again. Anna, look, there are so many doctors gathered here. It's your chance. I maintained my silence but conveyed a strong will through my somber gaze. This is the end for you, I thought. Confused, Clara could only respond with a huh. I continued calmly, You'll soon understand just how terrible your actions have been. Just as Clara tried to come up with an excuse, the groom suddenly raised his voice to address the crowd. Wait, please, why are you leaving your seats? His voice captured everyone's attention. Looking toward the groom, I noticed that all his colleagues from work were standing up and heading for the exit. Even as the groom tried to stop them, a dignified man who appeared to be the hospital director spoke up with determination. The recent remarks of the bride were so unpleasant that I can hardly believe it. I apologize, but we can no longer stay here. We will take our leave now. In response, the groom hurried to stop the hospital director. Please wait. I admit her words were inappropriate. I'll speak to her directly and ensure she undergoes a serious change in awareness. However, the hospital director pointed out the seriousness of the situation and revealed a background the groom was unaware of. Don't you know what kind of person your sister is? The groom looked confused. No, I only met her sister for the first time today. All I've heard is that she works in a factory after graduating from middle school. The hospital director couldn't hide his irritation at the groom's ignorance. That's ridiculous. Her sister is a respected lawyer and serves as the legal advisor to our hospital. The groom's eyes widened in shock as he learned this fact. He clearly had no idea that I was the hospital's legal advisor. The room fell silent, and both Clara and our parents lost their words. I realized that the reason the groom looked familiar was that I had seen him several times at hospital events. The other guests likely had the same realization as they looked at me. Clara's inappropriate comments only added fuel to the fire, prompting the hospital director to express his outrage. Even though the groom was a member of the hospital's medical staff and had no direct relation to me, to the hospital director and other staff, the legal advisor held significant importance. The groom's face turned even redder in an instant as he stepped toward Clara, raising his voice in reproach. "What on earth is this? Because of your carelessness, my reputation is now tarnished." Clara stumbled over her words for a moment, then defended herself like a bewildered child. "It's not like that. I truly had no idea my sister was in such a prestigious position." Growing more indignant, the groom continued to scold Clara. "Ignorance is no excuse. How can you speak so lightly and disrespectfully about your own sister? As a human being, your behavior is at the very bottom. You've truly lost sight of what's valuable." Desperately trying to elicit some understanding, Clara pleaded, "Wait a minute, listen, I have a good reason." But the groom cut her off without room for her explanation. "I'm withdrawing from the marriage. I have no interest in hearing your excuse. Our discussions about marriage end here." Clara looked shocked, her complexion turning deathly pale as she collapsed on the spot. In a fit of anger, the groom disappeared from the wedding hall along with the guests. As I was about to leave, I heard my sister's desperate cry behind me. "Please help me, Anna." But I wasn't swayed by her pleas. I confronted her with a stern tone. "Help you? Why should I do such a thing for you? The situation you find yourself in is the result of the seeds you've sown. You try to get a laugh by mocking others, and now you're playing the victim when it fails. That's a pathetic sight I cannot accept." Clara, fraught with confusion and anxiety, pleaded, "Why are you using such harsh words? If I had known about your success as a lawyer..." I responded quietly but firmly. "Why should I need to inform someone who has never contacted me about my profession? In fact, I was planning to end our relationship after this wedding, but now, having witnessed your unfortunate end, I'm somewhat satisfied. You must be disappointed that your engagement to a doctor has fallen apart. Well, you better work hard to find your next prospect." With those words, I left the venue with dignity. From a distance, I could hear the critical voices of Clara and our parents among the guests. Everything unfolded as expected, and Clara's marriage was no more. My parents, who had thought a secure future was assured through Clara marrying a doctor, expressed their anger towards her for the first time. The sister who had always been pampered couldn't withstand their rage and sought salvation with a broken heart. But I ignored her pleas. I never answered the phone despite her repeated attempts to reach me, and I cut off all contact with the family. I heard that Clara had quit her job. Now, without employment, estranged from our parents, she spent her days shut in at home. As for me, I was maintaining a very satisfying life, both in work and in my personal life. I led a peaceful existence without any significant problems. Although my relationship with my family hadn't been smooth sailing, I was fortunate to receive a great deal of support from people in my professional life and in my daily existence. This blessed environment wasn't due to chance. It was the result of long-term self-investment and persistent effort. There were days when I faced harsh trials, but overcoming each one brought me to where I am today. Reflecting on my past struggles, I recognize their value and now hope to continue living a fulfilling life at my own pace.